Jace Carter walked through the crowded night market of Orion Station. The air thick with smoke, metal dust, and strange alien perfumes. He came here for only one reason: to buy a cheap ship that he could repair and use for cargo jobs. He needed money, and he needed a ship fast. The market was loud and wild, but one stall was strangely quiet. A long silver tarp covered a medium-sized spacecraft parked behind a nervous old seller. The seller kept looking left and right as if someone dangerous was watching him. Jace studied the man carefully. "Is this the ship for sale?" he asked. The old seller nodded quickly. Yes, take it. Cheap price, very cheap." "You won't find a better deal," he said, his voice shaking like cold metal. Jace felt something was not normal. Nobody sold a ship this cheap unless there was a problem, but he needed a ship, and the hull looked strong. The design was old but simple, exactly what an engineer like Jace could fix. Still, the seller's eyes made him uneasy. The man seemed more excited to get rid of the ship than to sell it. Jace walked toward the ramp, and the seller stepped back as if he didn't want to go near the ship. "Go ahead, check inside. Everything is working." "Mostly," the seller said, sweating even though the air was cold. Jace raised an eyebrow but continued. He entered through the half-broken ramp, and the ship's lights flickered weakly. The air inside smelled like metal and burnt wires. But there was something else too, a soft, warm scent, almost like someone living inside. He paused. Was someone breathing inside the ship? He stood still, listening carefully. At first, everything was silent. Then he heard it again, a very soft sound, like a slow exhale. Not loud, not human, but alive. Jace's heart beat faster. He thought maybe a small animal had gotten inside. Or maybe it was just old air filters, but the sound felt too real, too close. He walked deeper into the ship. The narrow hallway led to the cockpit and crew rooms. Wires hung from the ceiling like spider webs, and panels were missing on the walls. But something else caught his eye. A panel at the far end seemed newer than the rest of the ship. It did not match the design. Someone added it later. Secretly, Jace approached it slowly. The closer he got, the louder the breathing became. He could almost feel fear in the air, not his own fear. Someone else's, someone hiding. He touched the panel and saw tiny scratch marks around the edges, as if someone had opened and closed it many times. With a deep breath, he released the latch and pulled the panel open. Inside the small, dark space, two glowing eyes looked back at him. They were wide, scared, and bright blue. Jace stepped back in shock, almost falling inside the compartment. A thin alien woman was curled up, holding a small child close to her chest. Both were shaking, their skin a soft silver-green color. The mother put her hand over the child's mouth, trying to keep them silent. Please don't call security," the alien woman whispered, her voice weak and full of fear. "We mean no harm. We are only hiding." Jace stood frozen. His mind raced with questions. Why were they here? Why inside this old, broken ship? And why was the seller trying so hard to get rid of it? The child looked at him with round, bright eyes, holding a strange, glowing crystal. Jace felt something from that glow, a quiet pulse of energy, like a soft heartbeat. "I didn't know anyone was inside," Jace said softly, keeping his hands raised to show he meant no harm. "I only came to by the ship." The alien mother looked weak, tired, and desperate. "We had no choice," she whispered. "They are hunting us. They want my child." Jace felt a chill run down his spine. "Who is hunting you?" he asked. Before the mother could answer, Jace's wrist beeped loudly. A station alert flashed across the tiny screen. "Attention. Dominion Wardens have entered the market zone for security inspection." The alien mother's eyes widened. In terror, the child clung to her tighter. Jace finally understood. These two were not just hiding. They were running for their lives, and now the Wardens powerful. Feared and merciless were here, searching, scanning, closing in, inside the small ship. Jace realized something frightening. He was no longer just a buyer. He was now part of a dangerous secret, and the thing he had stepped into was far bigger than he imagined. Jace Carter stood frozen in front of the open panel, the dim lights of the ship flickering around him like nervous fireflies. The alien mother held her child tighter, her silver-green skin trembling as if she expected Jace to turn her in at any moment. Inside that cramped hiding space, fear was thick like heavy smoke, and even Jace could feel it pressing against his chest. For a long second, no one moved. Only the soft breathing of the alien child broke the silence. Jace swallowed, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He had expected maybe broken engines or old wiring problems, not an entire family hiding inside his new ship. The alien mother spoke first, her voice shaking. "You should close the panel, please." Before they scanned this area, her tone held years of fear, sadness, and exhaustion. She looked like someone who had been running for a very long time. Jace nodded slowly. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he understood one thing clearly: she was terrified of the people searching outside. He gently closed the panel, but didn't lock it. Leaving a small gap so they could breathe, he leaned against the wall, thinking fast. Why would the Dominion Wardens chase a mother and child? The Wardens were supposed to protect the galaxy, but their methods were strict, brutal, and merciless. They believed in order, even if it meant crushing innocent lives. Jace whispered through the small opening, "You need to tell me what's going on." The alien mother hesitated, but the child tugged her arm and nodded softly, as if giving her courage. "My name is Lyra," she said, her voice low. "This is my son, Ryan." Jace heard the child shift slightly inside, holding something that glowed faintly like a sleeping star. "We come from a hidden colony far from human space," Lyra continued. "The Wardens found us. They wanted Ryan." For his ability, her voice broke on the last word, and Jace felt a cold chill slide down his spine. Abilities? Wardens. A child. Nothing about this situation was normal. What ability? Jace whispered. He tried to keep his voice calm, but inside, he felt a growing storm of worry. Helping them could ruin his life, but abandoning them felt wrong. Deeply wrong. "He can sense danger before it arrives," Lyra said, her voice filled with both pride and pain. "He connects with energy in ways we do not understand." She paused. "The Wardens want to use him as a weapon. They call him a strategic asset." Jace clenched his fists, anger rising like fire. Using a child as a weapon, that was not order. That was cruelty. Before he could respond, his wrist buzzed again. A new announcement came through. "Attention. Warden units are conducting room-by-room inspections. All traders remain in your stall." Lyra's breathing became fast and sharp. Ryan whimpered quietly, the glowing crystal in his hands pulsing with soft blue light. Jace crouched beside the panel and whispered, "They're coming closer. Stay quiet." He moved to the cockpit, trying to think of a plan. He couldn't hide the whole ship. Warden scanners could sense biological signatures, unless... He opened the ship's main power panel and stared at the mess of old wiring. If he crossed the coolant lines and overloaded the thermal sensors, it might create enough interference to confuse external scans. It was risky, but it was the only idea he had. Jace grabbed a set of wires and began working fast. Sweat rolled down his forehead, even though the room was cold. He could hear footsteps outside, heavy and metallic. Wardens, armored, emotionless, hunting machines. The ship vibrated as the market lights dimmed, signaling lockdown. Jace forced two wires together, sparks flying like angry stars. The ship hummed, then coughed, then released a low buzzing sound. Perfect. The sensors were scrambled. He rushed back to the hidden panel. "It's done," he whispered. I bought you some time. The scanners should malfunction when they scan this ship. Lyra closed her eyes in relief. Thank you. We do not deserve your risk. Jace shook his head. You're not the problem here, he said. The Wardens are. Suddenly, Ryan's blue eyes opened wide inside the darkness. Someone is coming, the child whispered, his voice soft, but certain, very close. Jace felt the ship tremble as a shadow fell across the entrance. An armored boot stepped onto the ramp. A Warden officer was now inside the ship, scanning the corridor, searching, hunting, seconds away from discovering everything. Jace's breath caught in his throat. This was no longer about buying a ship. This was survival. And the next few seconds would decide all their fates. Asterisk. The ship shook as it escaped the cruiser's cannon blast. Metal plates glowing red from the heat. Jace pushed the engines harder. Ignoring the alarms screaming around him, he didn't have a plan, only instinct, and instinct told him to keep. Moving behind them, the Warden cruiser turned, its engines roaring like a furious beast. Ryan clutched Lyra's arm, his eyes glowing faintly. They are locking on to us again, he whispered. They are reading the fear in space. Jace heard him and felt his stomach twist. These Wardens are like hunters who smell fear instead of blood, he muttered. The cockpit lights flickered as energy beams flew past them. The Wardens were no longer warning them. They were trying to destroy them. Jace tilted the ship sharply to the left, making it roll like a wounded bird. The beam missed and hit an empty patch of space, exploding like a silent star. We can't outrun a cruiser in open space, Lyra said, gripping the seat tightly. Her voice was soft but full of truth. Jace knew it too. They needed a place to hide, or a trick, or both. He scanned the space around them and spotted a strange region ahead. A cloud of dark blue gas, swirling like a storm in slow motion. It was a nebula, old and unstable, full of electric fields and magnetic storms. Most pilots avoided it because of the danger, but danger was better than certain death. We're heading into the nebula, Jace said. Lyra's eyes widened. That place is unpredictable, she warned. Jace nodded. So are the Wardens. The ship dove into the swirling cloud of blue gas. Lightning-like threads danced across the windows. The entire cockpit glowed with strange colors. The air hummed with static. It felt like flying through a living storm. The Wardens followed, but more slowly. Their ships were more advanced, but also more sensitive. They struggled with the nebula's shifting energy. This gave Jace a small advantage, but only small. Inside the storm, Jace had to fly by instinct. The ship's sensors kept flickering, showing wrong readings. Ryan placed his hand on the console. Again, I can feel the safe paths, he whispered. Follow my voice. Jace didn't question him. He trusted the child more than the computer now. Ryan spoke softly. Up, now left. No more left. Now straight. Jace followed each word, guiding the ship through narrow paths between energy fields that crackled like angry spirits. Behind them, one Warden patrol ship hit a lightning arc. Its shields flashed and burned. The ship spun out of control, disappearing deeper into the nebula. Good, Jace whispered. One down. But the cruiser was still coming, slow but steady. Its massive frame pushed through the nebula like a wall of metal. It fired smaller blasts, trying to trap them. Each blast lit up the cloudy blue darkness with red sparks. Jace pulled the ship into a denser part of the nebula. The light outside dimmed. Everything around them turned dark blue and silent. It felt like hiding in deep water. Lyra held Ryan tightly. Is this safe? She whispered. For now, Jace said, though even he wasn't sure. Ryan looked forward, eyes glowing brighter. They are still searching, he said, but their feelings are confused now. What do you mean? Jace asked. They are scared of the nebula, Ryan said. They fear what they cannot control. Jace felt a spark of hope. Fear, even the Wardens felt it. If Ryan could sense their fear, maybe he could use it. Jace looked at him. Can you make them think we went another way? Ryan closed his eyes, his small hands pressed together. I can try, he whispered. A soft blue glow filled the cockpit. It flowed like mist, spreading into the ship's metal. The lights shimmered as if reacting to Ryan's power outside. The nebula's gas moved strangely, forming a faint trail leading deeper into the storm. The Warden cruiser detected the false trail and followed it. Moving away from Jace's real position, Jace couldn't believe it. You did it, he whispered. You tricked them. Ryan opened his eyes, exhausted but smiling weakly. It won't last long, he said. They will know soon. Jace nodded and powered the ship toward the edge of the nebula. They moved carefully, slowly. Like ghosts moving through smoke, behind them, the Wardens grew smaller and smaller in the distance. The nebula hid them like a protective cloak, finally, after what felt like hours. They broke through the other side. Clean space opened before them, dark and wide. Jace let out a long breath. They had escaped. For now, Lyra touched his shoulder. Gently, you saved us again, she whispered. Jace shook his head. Not me, he said. Ryan saved us all. Ryan leaned back, tired but calm. The danger is not gone, he said softly. They will return. Jace looked out at the quiet stars ahead. We'll be ready, he said. Because running had turned into surviving. And surviving was turning into something else. A fight, a mission, a promise. The nebula's glow slowly faded behind them as the ship drifted into quiet space. For the first time in hours, the engines hummed softly instead of screaming like dying metal. Jace finally took his hands off the controls, his muscles aching from tension. Lyra sat beside him, holding Ryan close as the boy rested against her shoulder, but even in the calm silence, none of them felt safe. Space seemed peaceful, but Jace knew the Wardens were out there somewhere. Waiting, watching, hunting. They were like shadows that never stopped moving. Jace turned his chair and looked. At Lyra, you said Ryan is different, he said slowly. I want to understand. Lyra lowered her eyes as if the truth hurt her more than any wound. For a long moment, she didn't speak. The soft hum of the engine filled the air like a heartbeat. Ryan's faint blue glow pulsed with each breath he took. It was gentle, innocent, but powerful in a way Jace couldn't describe. Finally, Lyra began to speak. We come from a hidden colony called Valari, she whispered. Long ago, our people lived with the stars. We did not use them as tools. We listened to them, felt them, learned from them. Jace frowned. What does that mean? Lyra placed her hand over Ryan's. Our children were born with a gift, she said. They can sense the emotions of living beings, the energy of machines, and the danger in space. Jace stared at Ryan with new understanding. That's how he knew the Wardens were coming, he said, and how he knew the safe paths inside the nebula. Lyra nodded, tears forming in her eyes. But the Wardens learned of our gifts, she whispered to them. Ryan is not a child. He is a weapon, a tool to predict battles, to find enemies, to win wars before they begin. The thought made Jace feel sick. A child born with a gentle heart being turned into a machine for war. He clenched his fists. That's why they're chasing you, he said. Yes, Lyra replied. Ryan is one of the last star empaths. Jace looked at the boy, sweating softly, breathing gently. He looked like any child, except for the blue light pulsing from his hands and the calm expression on his face, even in danger. Ryan opened his eyes slowly and looked at Jace. They want me because they are afraid, he whispered. Jace raised an eyebrow. Afraid. The Wardens? Ryan nodded. They feel strong on the outside, but inside, they feel fear all the time. Jace sat back, surprised. He never imagined armored warriors like Wardens feeling fear. What are they afraid of? He asked. Ryan looked out the window. At the stars change, he whispered. They want everything to stay under their control. Lyra hugged him tighter. Ryan should have grown up free. She said softly, he should have learned from the stars, not run from soldiers. Jace felt something change inside him. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This wasn't just a chase or a mistake or an accident. This was something bigger. A fight for a child's future. A fight for freedom. We need to keep moving, Jace said. They will realize the false trail soon. Lyra nodded, wiping her tears. Where will we go? She asked. Jace looked at the star map, glowing faintly on the cockpit screen. We need a place the Wardens avoid, he said. A place they fear. Ryan suddenly pointed to a star system far to the right. His voice was soft but certain. There, he whispered. I feel something. Calm, old. Safe. Lyra looked confused. That system is not marked on most maps. She said. Jace zoomed in. A small, ancient planet appeared, covered in green and deep oceans. It looked peaceful, untouched, forgotten. Do you know this place? Jace asked Ryan. The boy shook his head. No, he said, but it calls to me. Like a memory I never had. Jace didn't understand the boy's power, but he trusted him more than any scanner. More than any map, more than any warning. Alarm, he trusted his heart. Then Ryan's glow dimmed suddenly. His small body swayed. And Lyra caught him before he fell. He used too much energy. She said, panic in her voice. He is too young for this. Jace rushed to help her. Ryan's breathing was shallow, his glow fading like a dying ember. Will he be okay? Jace asked. Lyra nodded slowly. He will recover. But he needs rest, warmth, and peace. Jace placed a hand on the ship's controls. Then let's get him to that planet, he said firmly. Outside, the stars seemed quiet and still. But Jace knew the silence would not last. The Wardens were still out there, searching, tracking, hunting. And soon they would learn where he was going. But he didn't care. He made a promise to himself. As long as he breathed, as long as he could fly, he would protect Ryan, no matter the cost. Asterisk, asterisk. The quiet planet grew larger on the screen as Jace guided the old ship closer. Its deep green forests and soft blue oceans shined like a hidden jewel in the dark of space. For a moment, Jace felt hope. A small, warm feeling that maybe, finally. They had found safety, but hope never lasted long when the Wardens were involved. A sharp alarm rang through the cockpit. Lyra gasped and Ryan stirred weakly in her arms. Jace checked the radar. His chest tightened. A massive red signal appeared behind them. The Warden cruiser had found them again. It moved like a giant metal shadow cutting through space. Silent, fast, impossible to escape. How did they find us so quickly? Jace whispered. Ryan opened his eyes slowly. They felt our fear, he murmured. They followed it. Jace clenched his jaw. He couldn't run anymore. Not with Ryan, too weak to help. Not with the ship damaged and overheating. It's time. To fight, Jace said quietly. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. Fight. Against a Warden cruiser. But Jace didn't look afraid. He looked determined, almost fierce. This ship may be old, he said, but I know machines better than the Wardens ever will. He ran to the engine room, pulling open panels. Tightening wires, bypassing broken circuits, sparks flew, metal groaned. But the old ship responded to his touch like a loyal friend waking up for one last battle. Outside, the cruiser began charging its main cannon. Its red glow spread across space like a rising storm. Jace rushed back to the cockpit. We can't outrun them, he said, but we can outsmart them. He angled the ship toward the planet. The cruiser followed, preparing to fire. Ryan sat up, his small hands shaking. I can help. A little, he whispered. Lyra tried to hold him back. You're too weak, she said. But Ryan shook his head, his eyes glowing faintly. I must, or we will all die. Jace nodded once. Do what you can, kid, he said softly. I'll handle the rest. The ship entered the planet's upper atmosphere. Flames danced across the hull as friction tore at the metal. The cruiser fired a massive blast. The red beam sliced through the sky behind them, barely missing the ship. Jace gripped the controls and pushed the engines to their limit. The ship screamed as if in pain. Lyra held Ryan as he pressed his glowing hands against the console. His energy flowed through the ship like a soft blue pulse, stabilizing the engines, calming the burning metal, helping Jace keep control. We're going to crash, Lyra cried. Not today, Jace said, his voice sharp like steel. He saw a canyon below, wide and deep, perfect for a trap. Jace pulled the ship downward. The cruiser followed, firing smaller blasts that shook the cliffs and cracked the rocks. Jace turned sharply, guiding the ship into the deepest part of the canyon. The cruiser tried to follow, but its large size made it slow, too slow. Ryan whispered weakly, Now? Jace flipped a switch on the console. He had rerouted all of the ship's remaining power to the engines and rear thrusters. The old ship burst forward in a sudden explosion of speed, a move the cruiser didn't expect. The Warden ship crashed. Against the canyon walls, massive rocks fell, smashing into its hull. The cruiser fired one last desperate shot, but it hit the canyon floor instead, triggering a huge dust explosion. The canyon shook like an earthquake. The cruiser's metal body disappeared under collapsing stone. The Wardens were crushed, buried by the very planet they chased the child toward. When the dust cleared, Jace guided the damaged ship into a soft clearing of green forest. The engines finally died. The lights dimmed. Silence filled the air. A peaceful silence they had not heard in a long time. Lyra held Ryan close, tears in her eyes. You saved us, she whispered to Jace. Jace shook his head, smiling tiredly. No, he said. We saved each other. Ryan touched Jace's arm. His eyes glowed softly again. You changed our future, he whispered. Humans are stronger than I ever felt. Jace looked at the forest around them. Birds flew across the sky. Wind moved through the tall trees for the first time since he bought the ship. He felt truly alive, but Ryan suddenly turned his head, his eyes wide. There is something else, he whispered. Someone is watching us. Jace froze. Lyra held Ryan tighter. A shadow moved between the trees. Not a warden, something older, something powerful. Jace stepped forward, ready for whatever came next. Because the galaxy had just changed for him, and he was no longer running. He was ready to fight, ready to protect, ready to face the unknown. The story of Jace, Lyra, and Ryan was only beginning. Asterisk. The metal footsteps of the Warden officer echoed through the narrow hallway like slow thunder. Jace stood completely still near the cockpit, his breath trapped in his chest. The dim lights inside the ship flickered again, as if the old vessel was shaking with fear too. Behind him, hidden inside the secret panel, Lyra and Ryan didn't make a sound. The silence was so deep that Jace could hear his own heartbeat, loud and heavy like a drum. The Warden officer stepped fully inside the ship, tall, armored, and cold as stone. Its helmet had a red scanning visor that swept across the floor, walls, and ceiling. A low humming sound followed the scan. Searching for life signals, Jace forced himself to act normal. He moved his hands to the control panel and pretended to be doing maintenance work. The Warden's red visor stopped on him for a moment, glowing like a sharp laser. Identity, the Warden demanded. its voice deep and almost mechanical. "Jace Carter," he replied, trying not to show fear. "Engineer, I'm buying this ship." The warden stepped closer. "Trade records show rapid purchase," the officer said, its voice emotionless. "Yes," Jace said. "The seller gave me a good price." He forced a small smile, hoping it didn't look fake. The warden scanned him again, then moved the visor toward the back of the ship. Jace's heart dropped. The officer was heading straight toward the hidden panel, toward Lyra, toward Ryan. The red visor approached the wall where the secret compartment was hidden. Stepped forward, blocking the path casually. "This ship is old," he said quickly. "Some systems are unstable. I'm running diagnostics." The warden stopped. Its visor flickered as if processing new data. Then it moved one step to the side, still scanning. The malfunction Jace created earlier caused static to appear on its visor. The scan beeped with errors, confusion, and noise. The warden clicked in irritation. "Ship is giving incomplete readings." The officer said, "Yes," Jace replied. "Quickly. That's why I'm repairing it." The officer tapped a button on its armor. A short message went out. "Sector 9 scan incomplete. Requesting secondary sweep." Jace felt a jolt of panic. A second warden would arrive soon, with stronger scanners. The malfunction he created wouldn't work twice. The officer gave him one long final stare, then turned around and walked out of the ship, the metal floor shaking under its heavy boots. The moment the officer left, Jace rushed to the ship's door and locked it. His hands trembled, but he kept his breathing steady. He hurried to the panel and opened it gently. Lyra was shaking, her eyes full of fear and helplessness. Ryan clung to her, glowing crystal still in his hands. "That was close," Jace whispered. "They will return," Lyra said. "They always return." Her voice carried years of pain and desperation. Jace leaned against the wall, thinking fast. He needed a way to get them off this station before the Wardens returned with stronger tech. If he stayed, they would all be caught. If he ran, he would become a criminal. But leaving them behind wasn't an option his heart could accept. "How many Wardens are searching for you?" he asked. Lyra closed her eyes. "More than you can imagine. They want Ryan because he is a star empath." One of the last, Ryan, looked up at Jace with his glowing blue eyes. "I feel them," the boy whispered. "They are angry." And close, a sudden tremor shook the ship outside. The heavy engines of Warden carriers hummed like approaching storms. The station lights flickered red, signaling high alert. Shuttles arriving, scanners upgrading, the hunt tightening. Jace rushed to the cockpit and powered the ship's systems. The old engines groaned, screens blinked, warning lights flashed, but the ship still woke up, slowly, painfully. Like an old lion forced to run again, Lyra crawled out of the hiding space and held Ryan close. "You cannot escape them," she whispered. "Wardens track energy, movement, even emotion." Jace looked at her, eyes sharp. "Then we need to get out before they start scanning emotions," he said. "Hold on." The ship's thrusters roared. Ice disengaged the docking clamps. The entire spaceport vibrated with alarms. Outside, Wardens looked up, red visors bright as they saw the ship powering up. A command voice echoed through the hall. "Unauthorized launch attempt detected." Jace gritted his teeth. "We're leaving," he said. Now he fired the engines. The ship lifted with a violent shake. Wardens rushed forward, weapons ready, scanners glowing red. The station gates began to close, massive steel doors sliding down like jaws. Jace pushed the throttle all the way. The ship shot forward, barely slipping through the closing gates, sparks flying on both sides. The Wardens fired tracking beams, sending streaks of light across space. Inside the cockpit, Ryan whispered again, "They are coming." Faster this time, Jace stared at the stars ahead, knowing this chase had just begun. He had protected them for 1 minute. Now he had to protect them for a lifetime. Asterisk, the ship burst out of Orion Station like a wounded animal running from a giant. Predator, inside the cockpit, alarms screamed, red lights flashed, and the engines shook with every second. Jace gripped the controls tightly, his knuckles turning white. The old ship felt like it would break apart at any moment, but he forced it forward. Behind them, 3 Warden patrol ships launched from the station gates. Their engines glowed blood red, moving with smooth, deadly speed. Ryan watched them through the window, his small hands trembling. "They are angry," he whispered, very angry. Lyra held him close, but Jace could see the fear in her eyes too. She knew the Wardens would not stop. Not for a warning, not for a law. Not until they had Ryan. The old ship vibrated violently as Jace pushed. The thrusters passed safe limits. Warning messages filled the cockpit screen. Engine overload, coolant critical, fuel flow unstable. Jace growled under his breath. "This ship is falling apart," he muttered. But turning back was not an option. Survival was the only goal now. The Wardens fired tracking beams, long red threads of light stretching across space. One beam grazed the ship, making it roll violently. Lyra held on to Ryan as they almost fell. Sideways, Jace fought the controls, pulling the ship back into balance. "Hold on," he shouted. "I'm going to try something." He tilted the ship toward a nearby asteroid field. It was thick, dangerous, and filled with giant floating rocks. Most pilots avoided it, but for Jace, it was a chance to hide. The ship dove into the asteroid field, weaving between spinning stones. The Wardens followed, but their ships were bigger and less agile. Ryan's eyes glowed softly as he whispered, "Left, then down. Now turn." Jace didn't question him. He followed the child's instincts, and each movement saved them by inches. A massive asteroid spun toward them like a falling moon. Jace twisted the ship at the last second, sliding under it with a burst of sparks. The Wardens tried the same maneuver, but scraped the surface. Chunks of rock crashed into their hulls, slowing them down. Still, they continued the chase, relentless as hunting dogs. "We can't keep this up," Lyra said, her voice breaking. "The ship is too weak." Jace knew she was right. Even the sound of the engines was painful, like metal screaming. "We just need a little more time," he said, "just a little." Suddenly, the ship's engine coughed and went dark for 2 seconds. Everything inside the cockpit went silent. Jace felt his heart stop. Then the ship jerked violently as the engines struggled back to life. It was dying. Ryan leaned forward, placing his small hand on the control console. A soft blue glow spread from his palm like quiet light moving through water. The screens flickered, then stabilized. The engine hum became smooth, almost calm. Jace stared in disbelief. "What did he just do?" he whispered. Lyra closed her eyes. "He is not like us," she said softly. "His connection is deeper. He feels the energy of things." The ship suddenly surged forward with new strength. The Wardens fired again, but the blasts missed as the old ship shot through the last line of asteroids. They reached open space for a moment. Jace allowed himself one breath of relief. Then a massive shadow appeared on the radar. A Warden cruiser, much bigger than the patrol ships, waiting for them like a silent monster in the dark. "They blocked the exit," Jace said, his voice low but steady. Ryan shook his head. "No. They followed the fear. They feel everything." The cruiser powered its main cannon, a deep red glow building at its center. Jace hit the ship's controls, searching for any escape route, but space around them was empty. No planets, no stations, only cold darkness. Lyra looked at him with hopeless eyes. "You should leave us," she whispered. "If they take us, they might let you go." Jace glared at her. "I don't leave people behind," he he said sharply. Not today, not ever. The cruiser fired. A massive beam of red light cutting toward them like a burning sword. Jace pulled the controls hard. The ship rolled sideways. The beam missed by a hair, lighting the side of the hull on fire. Metal plates melted. Alarms screamed again. Jace pushed the thrusters once more. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know how long the ship could survive. But he knew one thing. He was not giving up. Not with the Wardens. Behind them, not with a mother and child depending on him. The chase had only started, and Jace Carter was ready to fight the impossible asterisk.